Recently I noticed that we had yet to include a Swiss city in this series, which is just wrong. I mean, we've done 2 Croatian cities and 71,000 American cities, so let's rectify that with the stadiums and arenas of Basel, Switzerland. Why not start off at St. Jakob Park, which is not only the largest stadium in the country, but also the largest stadium in the entire area that is situated between Italy, France, Germany, Liechtenstein and Austria. That's why it's the ground most often used by the Swiss national football team. You may have noticed this tower. Well, don't be fooled, unlike the national stadium of Albania and Slovakia, this tower is not actually connected to the stadium. In fact, it opened a few years after the stadium did. It houses apartments on one side and offices on the other. Interestingly, the first ever event to take place at this stadium was an AC/DC concert, which is fitting because AC/DC does make the sort of music that's perfect to enter a stadium to, so I guess it's just as good for a stadium to enter the world to. This stand over here has been expanded since opening, and now the upper tier is almost hiding away underneath the low roof canopy. Next door is St. Jakobshalle, which is considerably older than the stadium is. The road in between the 2 venues actually forms the boundary of Basel city proper, so this is technically outside of the city. But we do the whole metropolitan area anyway. This place has a distinctive exterior and some even more interesting interior spaces. Before you even get to the seating itself, which is bog standard by comparison. Although there are lots of these so-called VIP boxes during the event that this venue is perhaps best known for. The Swiss Indoors, a tennis event that traces its history back to 1920. This venue has hosted the event ever since it opened. St. Jakobshalle was also the longtime home of the city's biggest hockey club, but they moved next door to St. Jakob Arena. They bloody love St. Jakob in these parts. I believe, now I could be wrong, but I believe he was known for performing the miracle of turning milk into cheese over the course of several months. See, if someone claimed to have done that nowadays, no one would believe him. It actually refers to a medieval settlement called St. Jakob an der Beurs. Unlike the previous arena, ice hockey fills up most of the calendar, except for when it hosts the occasional concert. Then the venue makes the transition from ice mode to Depeche mode. Like a lot of European hockey arenas, a considerable amount of the capacity is coming from standing places. They're situated at both ends, and make up over a third of the capacity. I'm a big fan of that. As they say, sitting is the new bubonic plague. Stadion Wankdorf. That name reminded me of the fact that there's a stadium elsewhere in Switzerland called Stadion Wankdorf. I've got nothing to add, it's just important to remember these things. There's been a stadium on this site since the early 20th century, but this current iteration was built in the mid-90s. It's not the most advanced stadium going around, although the main stand is kind of interesting. It's like a Queenslander house. I guess the Swiss people watching would have no idea what that is, but it's on stilts is what I'm getting at. You can even see through to the other side. As for the other side, well, it's just uncovered terracing. Oh, as you can see, one of the teams that plays here is an American football team. Stadion Schützenmatte is the largest athletic stadium in the city and is home to BSC Old Boys. That name reminded me of the fact that there's a stadium in Switzerland called Stadion Wankdorf, home to a club called Young Boys. This ground is also home to the Basel Running Club. And speaking of running, I did notice that there are seemingly a lot of nice spots to go running in Basel and its surrounds. In fact, your morning jog could take you from Switzerland through Germany, France, and back to Switzerland again. Anyway, I'm talking about running because there's not much to say about the stadium itself. One interesting little tidbit is that for a few years while St. Jakob Park was being built, FC Basel played at this tiny stadium. The ticket scalpers presumably prospered during this era. So there you have it. The Swiss may be known for holy cheese, but we learned that Basel has a whole lot of holy sports venues. My favourite of which is St. Jakob Park. I mean, it is the obvious one, but sometimes the obvious choice is the obvious choice. Please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. It's what St. Jakob would have done. Thanks for watching, have a good one.